Welcome to Course Program. Today we're going to be looking at course.java, which is a Java program. And then one of the cool things we're going to be doing today is using constructor methods. We're going to be calling them in an external program and then creating our first object, our own custom object for the first time. You know, we've created the scanner object, we've created a string object, but we're going to create our own personal object for the first time. So let's walk through this together. So we're gonna have a one file is going to be called course.java, which is going to be our class file, our main file with the class, and the second program is going to be course test.java, which serves the purpose of testing out our file as we create our first instance of a class. And what we're going to be taking a look at today is first we're going to look at the course.java file, then we're going to check out the course test.java file and see how we access methods and things like that, and then check out the overall output. So let's take a look at the course.java file first. We start off with an end of line comment indicating that this is just the name of the file. Then we define our class, which is public, as all classes on the AP Computer Science test are, and we see that the class's name is course. Then within the body we have one instance variable. Instance variable has the name and it's of string type. Now, one important thing to notice is that it's a private variable. So that means that any object of this class or anything cannot access this variable except the methods and variables of this class. So this is completely restricted to this class only. Now, let's take a look at the with the first method we have a constructor, and the constructor is public course parentheses and within the body. So that's the constructor, and as you can see, it's public and it has no return type, as all constructors do not have a return type. And then this is a constructor without parameters. So as you remember, when they want to create when any object of this class is created, you don't need to use a parameter or an argument within the constructor call. And as you can see, the only statement within this constructor is to set the name private instance variable to a value of basically an empty string, just one space. And remember that the name variable refers to the name of this course. And when you initialize this constructor class and create an object of it, and you do not give an argument while creating that object, the name will automatically be set to one space basically, or an empty string. Next, let's look at a constructor which does contain a parameter. So public course, again, no return type because it's a constructor, and the constructors all have the same name as the class does, and the parameter is string name. So we're going to be looking for a string parameter. And remember, one more thing that we're looking at here is a concept called overloading, because we have two different methods that have the same name, but they have different parameters, and this is known as overloading, and the computer is able to differentiate between the two depending on the method call and how many parameters are within the parentheses. So that's how the computer is able to differentiate. So in this case, when they initialize a course object, and then they would give a string as what they want the name of the course to be, then this sets the name of it basically results in this.name equals name. So here we're using the this keyword because the private instance variable is also called name, and the parameter is called name, and that usually brings up confusion for the computer. So by using the this keyword, we're indicating that this.name refers to the private instance variable and the other name refers to the parameter. So in this constructor, which contains one parameter, we're basically just setting that parameter to the private instance variable name. So now we have two constructors, and we're using overloaded constructors because they both have the same name but different parameters, and both constructors have no return type, and their method name course is the same as the name of the class, which is a requirement for constructors. Next, let's take a look at the method public void set name, and in parentheses the parameter is string name. So now an important thing to realize is because when it says set name, we can tell that this is a setter method or a mutator. And it's public, so that means that any object of this class or anybody else, it's accessible to all. And what this basically does, as you can probably tell by the name, is it sets it gives the name private instance variable a value. And what it does is, again, just like the constructor, it goes this dot name equals name. And what this simply does is, like it does with the constructor, we're using this keyword to indicate that the first name is the private instance variable, and we're just setting its value to the parameter that will be referred to. So whatever string is between the parentheses when this method is called is what will be is whatever the value of the name private instance variable would be. Next, let's look at another method, which is public string get name, and as you can see, it's a getter method, also known as an accessor, and basically what it has a return type of string because it's going to be returning name, which our private instance variable, which is name, and it's a type string. So the return type is string, and it's public, so it can be accessed to all, and its name is get name, just like a getter method is. And here what it's doing is it's very, very simple. The only thing this thing does is return name. So it's returning a string and it's returning name, which is the private instance variable. And then the last method that's part of this class is public void print name parentheses. So as you can see, it's public, so it's accessible to all. Void means it has no return type. It simply prints something out, but it has no return type, and its name is print name, and it has no parameters. And its statement is system.out.println welcome to a semicolon space whatever the name or the private instance variable name is that has a value of. So this will simply print out welcome to, and then whatever is after that, whatever the name of the course is. And this is accessible by all, and we're using the println method to print it out. So these are all the methods that are part of the course program, and as you notice, there's no main method. So we've just defined the methods, and in order to run this program, we're going to need to create a class, because we cannot run any of these methods within this program or this class because none of them have the static keyword, and because they don't have a static keyword, they cannot be run within the class. They have to be run by an object. So now let's take a look at another Java file, which is course test.java, and this is where we're going to be creating an object of this course class and see how that functions. Let's go to the course test.java. Okay, so here we are at course test.java. Let's walk through this line by line, and then we'll see what the output is. So first we have a declaration public class course test. So the name of the class is course test, and it's a public class. Then we're declaring the main method, public static void main string arg. So as you can see, it's static, which means it can be run within the class. And we're using the main method in this case to run this program. And so what we're doing now is we're going to be declaring our first class. And we're saying course algebra 2 equals new course semicolon. And what this is doing is, this is just like our other declarations, like for string s equals new string, and then whatever is in over here, something like hi. So this is just like what we've been doing previously. As you can see, the first thing starts off with course, which is the type or the class, Algebra 2 is the name of this object, reference, or variable. And then we have the new keyword. And over here we're using the course constructor method. The course constructor method, which we went over right over here, the course constructor method is what we're using. And what it's doing is it's setting the value of the private instance variable name to an empty string. And that's what we're doing. And this is the first time we've instantiated an object of our own creation. Before, we've been using the string object and the scanner object, but this time this object is of our own creation because we have created the class. And now we have algebra 2, which is an object reference, and it basically represents our class. It represents the course. It represents a course object. So now we have algebra2.setName in parentheses algebra 2. And we're using the setter or the mutator method. And what we're doing here is we're going algebra 2, which is the object name, dot, we're using the dot operator, and then we're calling a method from this object, which is of the course class. So we're calling a course class method. And we're calling setName in parentheses algebra 2. So let's go back to the setName method in course.java, and we can see what setName does is it takes a string argument or a string parameter, and it sets the name instance variable to the value of this parameter. So basically, now the value of the name parameter is algebra 2, and that's what we've done using the setName method. Next line, algebra2.printName. And so similarly, we're using the algebra 2, which is a course object, and we're using the print name method of the course class. So let's go and take a look at what the print name method does. So looking at the print name method, it's a public method. That's why we're able to access it. It has no return type, and it prints out welcome to whatever the name of the instance variable is. So basically what should happen now when we refer to this print name method is that the computer or the console should print out welcome to : space algebra 2. And let's take a look and check if that happens. And notice how when we wanted to set the value of the set the value of the private instance variable name, we used the set name method. We didn't directly change the value of the name instance variable, and that's because the name instance variable is private, and therefore it can only be accessed by the methods of that class, and it can't be accessed by an object. And that's why we create methods such as setName and getName in order to do that. So right over here, let's run this program. Save, compile, and finally let's run. And we run course test, and it says welcome to algebra 2. Now one thing that we could have done is, instead of using a constructor without any parameter, let's say that the parameter of this constructor is let's see, geometry. So now what this should do is this should first give the constructor, when we construct it with a parameter of geometry, as we can see in the course.java program, we can see that by giving a parameter that's a string, it sets this dot name equal to name. So that means it sets the private instance variable name to the value of the parameter. So what should happen when we do this is that the value of the parameter should actually be equal to geometry. So let's see if that happens. So let's do this. Let's print this out over here. So what's going to happen now is we're using the print name method twice, so we're going to have two different printing actions happening. And the first time we print, it's going to say welcome to geometry. Second time we print, it's going to say welcome to algebra 2. And the difference occurs is because in between we'll be using the setName method, which will change the value of the private instance variable name from geometry to algebra 2. So let's just run this program and see what happens. So compile and finally run. And as you can see, it printed out welcome to geometry and then welcome to algebra 2. So as you can see, we started off by using a constructor method with a parameter to initialize this object or create this object from the course class, and we set the value of the private instance variable name of this object to geometry. Then we printed that out, and then we set the name to algebra 2. So we changed the value of name and set it to algebra 2, and then we print that out, and then we got a different result. So that's how we use the different methods. And as you can see, for the first time, we have created our own class and then created our own object out of it. And that's a huge accomplishment in the Java programming language. And this is what enables you to use object-oriented programming, because you're using you're using classes and objects to create your programs. And so basically, looking at this course program, we created our first own object, and we used the setter method, the getter method. We used different constructors. We overloaded constructors, and then we had a private variable that only the methods of the class could access, and we had another method that printed it out. And overall, the course program taught us a lot about classes and objects, and creating an object from a class, and then using the setter and the getter methods.